I had these three aha moments in my life, which actually told me that this huge power that data can give us. My first such aha experience was in Teach for India. When I was a fellow in Teach for India, I was actually teaching grade 2 and grade 3 first generation schoolgoers from Old City, Hyderabad. Uh, what I realized initially when I went in there, I had no information about what's happening in the class. The kids were like 4 years below their current level. So if they were in grade 2, they didn't even identify the alphabet, which was supposed to happen in your pre-KG. Uh, Initially, when I started try teaching them without using data, there was no success. I actually saw failure in my class. But then when I actually started designing my lesson plans using the data, so I used to collect data every single day from my students, see where exactly their mistakes were, see what is that skill they were missing. And then I started teaching and making my lesson plans using that data. And I actually saw that there was a huge shift in the way my kids were learning. And my kids actually showed about 4 years of growth in just 1 year span. And when I actually saw that happening, that's the first aha moment I had, where I felt like, yes, data is the thing which can actually make the change in the world. That's when I realized, okay, I'm using data. I've been using Excel sheets and everything, but I realized that that's not how the scaling up can happen. I have to learn the skills of how do I process the data. There are new technologies out there, and I have to learn those technologies. And that's when I got into this advanced program at ISB. I wanted to learn the skill of how the market is working with the data, and where I learned those basic skills. And later I got this opportunity to work with LV Prasad Eye Institute. Uh, Again, that's one of the largest eye institute, I would say, in the world. And one of the major problems that LV Prasad Eye Institute was having was waiting time of the patients. The excellent service that they give, no doubt, every patient is happy there. But one complaint that every patient has is, I have to wait for hours and hours in the institute just to get my eye checked for 15 minutes. They didn't know why this was happening. When the clinicians and the heads of LVPI came to us and told us that we want you to tell us why this is happening, we actually collected the data. So here it was not just understanding or looking at the data that they have. We also collected the data to see why this is happening. And we collected the data. We actually started tracking people second by second. Okay, here you're wasting say 30 seconds, there you're wasting 20 seconds. When we actually collected the entire seconds, we saw that they were spending about 5 hours unnecessary activities. And when we went back to the clinicians and we told them that these are few things that you can reduce, they worked on it and they saw that they could save those 2-3 hours. And when the clinicians came back to us, they told us, okay, because of your inputs, we were able to make that impact at LVPI. That was my second aha moment. So they were the experts in the field, and using data, I could actually help the experts. That's like the best aha moment I had at LVPI. My third aha moment is CBRE. CBRE is 100 plus year old company, and there's is the world's largest commercial real estate. When actually the heads of CBRE felt that data science can help them, 100-year-old company actually thinks data science can help them, and they tell us that, okay, you have to build certain data structures in place and data science solutions for us that will make our business better, do perform better. I mean, that was my third aha moment. So these were my three primary, I would say, moments which actually made me believe data will help us solve the problem. And I am not a data scientist because the market is talking about a data scientist, but I'm a data scientist because I'm passionate towards them. I've seen that change happen wherever I was using data. So that's broadly my journey. Without further delay, let's actually get started into the actual content of the day. What is data science? I'm sure you have seen this Venn diagram or definitions everywhere on your Google search. Venn diagram, again, the most famous Venn diagram that you have seen probably. But I want everyone to probably take 10 seconds just to focus on that Venn diagram. it's a very powerful Venn diagram. And someone, I think one of the questions that we had was, how do we get started, or what are the sources that we need to do? I think this Venn diagram will help you answer that question. Take about 10 seconds just to look at that. Do nothing, just look at that. Okay. Just to summarize, I think I'm sure you have understood what this is, but I think you have to have three major skills. Just give me a second. Uh, Hacking skills. When I say hacking skills, it's nothing but your coding skills. How good are you with coding? Math and statistical knowledge. I think one thing that people miss is the importance of math and statistics. Math and statistics knowledge is not, definitely not about, okay, the coefficient is this, so in linear regression the coefficient is this, so I need to do that. No, you have to understand the reasoning behind it. Why? You have to ask why for everything that you're doing, irrespective of whether it's data science or anything else. Ask yourself, the people who are asking you to do, everyone around, why. This math and statistics knowledge will help you answer that why when you see some equation giving out some numbers out there. Very, very crucial and very, very important. And I think the third aspect, which I observed during my interviewing people, is that they lack that domain knowledge. When I say substantive expertise, it's nothing but the domain knowledge. It's very, very important as a data scientist to understand the subject that you are solving for. You're actually solving as a data scientist real-time problems. And you cannot solve a real-time problem unless you are in it. If COVID or Corona was a part of China right now, I could have given any damn solution out there. But right now, because I'm in it, my solutions will be far more realistic, far more data driven, because I'm getting impacted because of it. So be in that position. As a domain person, you have to understand, why do I have to answer this? Okay, what is the impact this is going to give for the subject? Answer those questions for yourself. The next slide, as I said earlier, while interviewing people, one common pattern I have seen is their understanding of data science is slightly different. I think three common myths that I have observed, or three common trends that I have observed while interviewing people, I wanted to put it out so that it can be useful. Again, you might not be thinking that way, but this was the common trend I have observed while interviewing people, and need not be just freshers, but everyone throughout who was trying to enter into data science had this myth in their mind. The first major myth that people have is, okay, I know Python programming. I was actually, let me quote an example for this. I was actually speaking to someone very recently. I asked them, okay, what are you? He said, I'm a data scientist. And I'm like, great, okay, so what did you work on? I can code anything on Python. I'm like, okay, then you are a Python programmer. You're not a data scientist. No, 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 no. I use Python. I can code anything. You ask me a question, I can code anything. Again, okay, can you talk about the data that you worked on? No idea. Please, if you are an expert in Python programming, you are a Python programmer. You're not a data scientist. Whereas what a data scientist does is they have a passion for data. They love looking at data. They love looking at insights. Their aha moment, again, their aha moment is not when they run a code, but their aha moment is when they see an insight from the code. That's their aha moment. Nothing wrong in being a Python programmer, but if you're a Python programmer, be a Python programmer. If your love is Python or any other language, be a language expert, not a data scientist. But if you love data, if you love looking at insights, you can use any tool. I've been using, say, before 6 months, I was working on R. Right now, I'm working on Python. Probably tomorrow, I'd work on SAS. Maybe I would work on something else, Scala. But it doesn't matter as long as I'm working on data. I'm able to look at the insights and patterns, make that difference in mind. The next one major observation I had while scanning the resumes was that okay, they write a list of algorithms they've been working on, random forest, regression, neural networks, etc., etc., etc. I haven't worked on, but I was interviewing them. I asked them, okay, great, neural network. Can you talk about the math behind it? Can you talk about the gradient descent? They don't know what the gradient descent is. They don't know. Okay, can you talk about the differentiation? Why differentiation happens in gradient descent? Can you talk about that? No. So again, I want you to understand that it really doesn't matter the number of algorithms you're putting in. All that matters is even if you run one linear regression, I want you to know the math behind it. Why are you running the linear regression? Understand the patterns. And if there is no current algorithm that is able to solve your problem, create an algorithm. That is what a data scientist should be able to do. I can create an algorithm because I know what my data is talking about. The world doesn't know. The people who have made these algorithms don't know my data. My data is my own, and I can create that out there. Have that passion. And the third one, again, as I said in the previous slide, people say, I don't need the domain knowledge. As long as the data is there, I know the dependent variable, I know the independent variables, I can run the algorithms, it will give me output. The algorithm will give me output. No, that's not how it is. You have to understand, because there are some outputs that your algorithm can give which might not make sense at a domain level. I'll actually talk about it in the use case. One such example where I had this experience of why domain knowledge is important. But make sure you have that domain knowledge. Again, look at the Venn diagram. You have to have all the three to be a really successful data scientist. I won't even call a successful data scientist. Even to be a data scientist, you have to have all the three. Very, very, very important. Keep that in mind. Um, take again 2 seconds just to sink in the facts that you have seen till now. Okay. So now moving on, I would want to talk about the different roles and responsibilities, or I won't call responsibilities, but more like a skill set that you need to have uh, to be a part of the data science team. Before going into the next slide, I want to tell you that data scientist is one thing, data science projects is an altogether different thing. Data scientists are part of a data science project. They're not alone. There are a whole lot of people who work in a data science project. So even if you're not a data scientist, you can still work on data science projects. I actually want to talk briefly about all the roles in the next slide. So as you can see here, a whole lot of people work in a data science project. Say it actually starts with a domain expert. Domain experts are somebody who has been working in the industry for, like, they know the industry in and out. They know the strategic problems that the industry has. They know everything. They're passionate about the industry. I think one of the questions that was shared while registrations was, I have, like, say 15 years plus experience and I want to work in data science field. One thing is, as a 15 plus years experience person, uh, what you have in domain understanding is something that none of us can bring in. You are somebody who can be that domain expert, who can understand the problem, say, okay, this is the problem that the domain has. And I think the solution is going to be this. Is it going to be a data science solution or not? Is again up to you to decide whether data will really solve that problem or not. But you can think yourself as someone with a domain expertise. I think all of the people who are here on this call, one thing I want you to understand, that you can be anything in this. Please don't see yourself as a data scientist. If data science is not your passion or not something that you're really interested in, think about other areas. I have worked as a business analyst, I have worked as a data engineer, I've worked as a data scientist, and I'm currently working in product management team. So you can be anything in data science, because everything, end of the day, comes together as a data science solution. So keep that in mind when you're actually approaching your career choices. The next one would be business analyst. Business analyst is somebody who actually brings that bridge, who becomes that bridge between the business and technology. Business analyst is somebody who knows the processes. Okay, for sales, these are the processes. For operations, these are the processes. They know in and out. They're non-tech people. If somebody in this call is someone who's not into tech, but who wants to work with data, who wants to bring that change using data, probably business analyst is one role that you can explore. Again, as a business analyst, you need to be a great storyteller. You need to be able to understand the technical inputs that you're going to get, insights, and convert them in such a way that the business people can understand. The business people will not understand if the data scientist comes and says, oh, the dependent variable has so and so, the independent variable gives a coefficient of say minus 0.5. They won't understand. You have to convert it into a story so that the domain expert can understand. Maybe say, for example, you can say, okay, we see that the dependency on your career choice based on your classes that you attend is they linearly proportional, or there is a high dependency we see between the number of sessions you take versus the good placement that you have. There's a dependency. So that kind of storytelling is something a business analyst does. You need to understand all the processes. Again, you don't need to do MBA for this. You need to have that skill in mind. You need to build that over time. The next one would be data architect. I would say data architect is a very, very, very important role, especially with scenarios like the very famous Cambridge Analytica case, where this data is very crucial. My data, I will not love to share it with anyone unless it is important or unless there is a way they take permission from me. So data security is extremely important. I don't want random calls because I have signed up on Facebook and they share the data with somebody else, and they look at my patterns of search, they look at my every stuff. I don't want them to get access to the data. What a data architect does is they actually design these storage and access principles. They write the policies around who should get what kind of data, how should the data be stored, and everything. And they also talk about how do we reduce the redundancy in data. I might have one variable which I'm using across multiple different aspects, business processes. I don't want that particular aspect to be repeated across because it's eating up my space. I don't want that to happen. A data architect can actually design in such a way, things in such a way that there is redundancy reduction that is going to happen while data is being stored. And if you are passionate about data security, data storage, if you can design those policies, data architect is the role for you. Every domain, every industry, every company has a data architect, irrespective of whether it's an analytical firm or not. You have a data architect in place. The next, I think, somebody, a bridge between data scientist and the rest of the team would be a data engineer. Data engineer is a very tech role. They're actually somebody who's going to build the pipelines between, say, okay, data architect designs everything, this data that is being stored right now. Data scientist needs that data. How do we build that pipeline? That's what the data engineer does. What the data engineer does is, how do I efficiently code stuff just to ensure that there is reduction in the time it takes to pull the data. The data, if the data is being used multiple times, can I write a stored procedure to access the data? Those are the things that the data engineer does. Data engineer is one role probably out of all who is less business and more tech. Huge tech weightage and probably very little business understanding. Again, business understanding is important, but not as much as, say, other aspects or other roles in data science. Next comes the data scientist. Data scientist, as I said earlier as well, you need to have that eye for data. You need to look at the data. You need to have passion to look at the data. The more the data, the better it is. Start looking at data. Probably one way to assess yourself Whether you like looking at data or not, start looking at data. Start looking at different kinds of data. Don't run an algorithm, but start looking at data. Just see, load them in Excel, start playing around with data, see the patterns that are coming out, see if you really enjoy those. If that's something that you enjoy, and if you like looking at the mathematical equations behind them, then data scientist is the thing for you. But assess yourself. These are all the things that actually uh, work together in a data science project. The last one, product management team, is nothing but the team that actually scales up these projects. So as a data scientist, I might look at say one team, one kind of solution, but how do I scale it up? To scale it up, I have to productize it. That's what the product management team does. So once my solution is in place, my solution is well designed and well put, I'll actually hand it over, or I wouldn't say hand it over. I'll have it shared with the product management team, who will start productizing it with our support, with data science team, with domain, with everyone else again. So these are the different roles that are possible in a data science team. Again, next section ends. Take about 5 seconds. Just internalize everything that you've seen so far.
Karuna, sorry to get into the session, but then I
No.
was compelled to, rather than more of a curious thing. Like you've told about different roles, right? Like I know, I understand you've put in the kind of personalities or the expertise which someone would need as well. You've beautifully placed them so that somebody can visualize what they are versus what they can become. I'm sure you would cover at the later part of time, but since it's some logical block, I wanted to have few questions here. Like each of these roles, if someone really want to get into them, where should the journey start? Like say for example, who should uh, let me first start off, since there are quite a few tech students here. I'll pick up the what do you call data engineer and data scientist, being the most tech part of the other things. How do they really start their journey? Because this is one of the questions which we had in the things, like be it in the technology wise, any programming languages which they need to start on, mathematical part. So how do they start these two roles to begin with? Then we'll get into the other roles.
Great. I would say two parts to it. One is exploration, one is learning. Exploration is something that you would get by reading a lot of stuff. Just go online. Say, for example, data engineer. I would say learning would be how is the data stored? Just learn about relational database or MongoDB, different kinds of databases that are out there, and how the data is stored and accessed. Whereas when you come to the tech part of it, actually start coding. So SQL or any other PostgreSQL or any other MongoDB. How do I load data from MongoDB? How do I load a JSON file? Those are the different things that you learn on the tech part. So always see it as two parts: uh, learning the tech skill and understanding what you're doing. Both of them. Same is the case with data scientist. As a data scientist, I would say three parts to it, because you have those three parts in the Venn diagram. One thing would be start reading about the industries, various industries out there. Start reading about their use cases, their strategic problems. There's something called as earnings call that all the Fortune companies share. So you have to actually start reading those, understand what they're talking about. Probably, especially the CEOs and CFOs of the company, they talk about their strategic problems in the firm, and understand how data. You all on by yourself. Start designing solutions in your mind. That's one part of domain understanding. The second part would be the math. When I say math, it's not just statistics. You have to have three different things: statistics, linear algebra, and I would say differentiation, calculus. Go in depth. Linear algebra is your base for everything. I think matrix operations, support vector machines, everything, the underlying base is your linear algebra. Start looking at your probably your pre engineering time books. Take out the math books, start reading them. And the third part is actual technical skill. pick one language. It can be any language, irrespective of what the market is saying, Python or R or SAS or Scala or anything. Pick that language and start looking at that. Use that language to explore whatever you're trying to look at in the data. So these are the different things you can do to have that jump start in your career as a data scientist. These three are equally important.
So like we need huge data, right, for doing these things. How far like we'll be able to get data sets? Where they should be looking at? Any specific data science oriented courses or programs which they can look at? Being a student, understand the perspective of how much finance they would be able to invest. Any free sources, these kind of things. Any suggestions from your side?
One definite source I would want to talk about is Kaggle. I'm sure all of you might have heard this if you're really looking at data science as a career choice. Kaggle.
You want,
Kaggle
can
has
you Cattle?
Kaggles, Kaggle, Kaggle.
Cattle. Okay.
I've put
Cattle.
it in the last slide as well.
Okay.
As a data scientist, I think go to any data science person. Kaggle competitions are the must-haves for anyone. If you're really passionate about solving problems, looking at data, there are different kinds. You have computer vision related textual problems, you have regular structured data problems, all the problems out there, various industries, even problems from COVID are there out there on Kaggle. So start looking at that data, participate in Kaggle competitions. You don't need to be on the leaderboard out there. Just practice it. I think you will have that jump start over anybody else. If I am the interviewer and if you actually tell me that I participated in a couple of Kaggle competitions, I love it because you actually solve real problems with probably not every person in a final year would be able to do it. They might do one or two, but if you participate in Kaggle, you're actually on par with, say, 2 years experienced person because you're solving problems, real-time problems out there. So you'd have that jump start. And I think even while you're talking in your interviews, you'd be very authentic when you're talking. You'd not come across as someone who's not experienced, but you'd actually talk about subject. So that's definitely the thing I would want to have in anyone I'm hiring or anyone who's passionate in data science.
Great, guys. I hope you understood the important points. She's talking about database, how you are able to look at the database. One strong, you have to be very strong in one database related thing, be it SQL, MySQL, whatever it is. Understand how to write the Bloopers and all the things. One programming language, it could be Python or program which can be supporting for this kind of data science. Pick that one. Okay, kind of forums, be there. And I believe all the companies which are working in data science, they put up their use cases which they have done for their clients, share them. It could be for their branding purpose or it could be for their general public, say white papers. They release a lot of white papers, guys. You can go through them, understand them. Okay, so please really understand this. Yeah, Python, I know Python. Okay, I'll go to the questions, but I'll not get into that. So coming back to this business side, because this is where the non-tech guys who are looking at, can we have an entry into this, but then they need to get a chance to get it. How far these data science based companies are open for any kind of internships or job things? How do they generally recruit? How they can, now we can approach them? Is it like a typical internship followed by a conversion into placement? How is that typically that happens?
Great. I think I can actually talk about my personal experience of how I got into data science. So as I told earlier as well, I was into Teach for India and I was a non-tech person. Though I did my bachelor's in computer science, I never worked honestly on coding or any technology platform. I was a teacher, but I really wanted to get into a data science field. What I have done is basically I think bump into people who are currently working in data science field, and all I went there and told them is, can you please refer me? I want to talk to the person. It doesn't matter, because I knew that my resume was not reflecting it, but I was learning a lot with respect to the data. I knew that I can convince the people. So what basically I have done is I went to these startups, especially the startups are very open to exploring people with different varied backgrounds. It really doesn't matter whether you have that knowledge or not, as long as you're passionate and you show that passion in your conversations and in your work, background work that you do. If you are someone like that, I think a lot of startups out there in the market would actually want to uh, put their bet on you. And one such experience I had was with Medlytics. Medlytics was one company where I actually went to the vice president and I told him that I don't have a data engineering experience, but I want to do that. Give me a 2 month internship and just get me there. If you really think I cannot perform, get me out. It was a 2 month contract because I believed in myself. I think for everyone, I would say, believe in yourself. Have the conviction that you can do it. If you're really passionate about something, it reflects in your conversation. Don't be scared because you are being paid because you're doing something for the company. It's always a mutual thing. The company is not doing a meherbani on you, nor you are doing a meherbani on the company. It's a mutual agreement that you're having with the company that I give you my expertise, my skills, you pay me for that. So always make sure you believe in yourself while you're trying to approach this. Don't be afraid that you don't have that experience or skill. As long as your passion is there, you have that alignment, please go ahead and start tapping your all your contacts, anyone out there. Just go to any platform, all your friends, family, tell them, look, I'm interested in exploring this. Can you introduce me to someone? Just go out there, talk to people, you'd get it. As long as your passion is in the right place.
Great, great, Karna. Thanks a lot. I'll again like stop here. I'll be mute. I'm mute again. Go ahead. Sorry to oh, disrupt your presentation. Okay,
No
go ahead.
worries.
We'll come back to again the major actual Q&A round.
Great. Thank you. I think this was a good closure that you were giving to all the things that I was talking about. Let's
Yep.
move ahead. Uh, Specifically, okay, before I go to the use case part, one thing I want to tell you is data science is not always building that automatic car or building something like Alexa. Those are also the use cases, but there are other use cases also in data science which can bring in change, which might not be cool, but it is something that is going to bring change. Three different use cases from my own experience I wanted to share here. Again, from three different fields I've worked. One was education, the second was healthcare, and the third is the real estate. Three different use cases. None of these are going to be the cool ones you see in the market out there on Google, but they are definitely the ones which actually showed impact out there. The first one is from education. Uh, the problem primarily we were looking at was there was a huge dropout in government schools. Uh, None of them knew, the people who were working there knew as to what was the problem. They just saw that, okay, people are just leaving. We don't know why. And they didn't have people. What they have also realized is when people actually go and talk to the families, there is increase in people retaining for another 1 year, but they don't have so many people who can actually go to every single house and counsel them and talk to them and make sure they don't drop out. They needed a particular approach, a strategic approach to target those homes where there is likelihood of dropout. This was purely analysis as to what are the patterns, what do I see in the data that is going to tell me that, okay, these are the families who are likely to drop out, or these are the children from the families who are likely to drop out. So it was a very real time problem where I actually can bring in education to children who are going to drop out. That's a huge impact. That was huge commitment I had to give for myself. So what we have done is we've extracted various factors: family backgrounds, community backgrounds, educational background of families, the children, their education background, their siblings, everything possible. And we tried looking at the dropouts against the information that was given. Is there any pattern that I could see in this? And we realized that there was one particular age group or single parent families which were likely to drop out because they needed to earn for the family. That's something that we realized after talking to the families. And we started doing this targeted intervention. The moment there's an admission, and they come from either from say single parent families or from a particular age group. The people, the counselors were sent to their families. They started talking to the families, and then they realized that the dropout has come down drastically. So this was a whole thing, and there was no fancy thing that we could show out there, but this was something that was really showing impact. And in this, I actually want to talk about one domain knowledge, why I felt domain knowledge really helped me. When we initially looked at the data, strangely, we actually saw that there was a huge dependency between high math scores and high dropout rate. So the data was actually telling us that the more math marks you get, the likelihood that you'll drop out, which really didn't make sense based on my domain knowledge or everyone else who was working on the team. We actually then understood that our data collection itself was skewed. We actually collected data from a very different community than what we were targeting. So what we have done is we have redone the entire data collection process. We have collected the data again, just to ensure that this dependency on math score didn't make sense to us. And then we have seen that there was absolutely no dependency between high math scores and dropout rate. I wouldn't say no dependency, but there was a negative dependency. So people who were scoring more were likely to drop out less, which actually made sense when I look at the domain knowledge. And I'm sure everyone would understand that, okay, people who are happy with their schooling would likely to continue in the school. So the reason why I was actually talking about why domain knowledge was important is something like this. Had I been someone who had no knowledge of ed sector, I would have actually given this. Imagine the trust that I would have, or the targeted approach. The solution itself would have been entirely skewed, and wrong solution would have come up. Probably they would have started giving low math scores or something like that, and it wouldn't even help them in any way. So having that domain knowledge really helped me to question something that the data was telling me. And I think that is the reason why I want you to understand that domain knowledge is equally important. I think one main learning I had here is impact over interest. Uh, I, I could have created something very interesting that I could have pitched to the government of India and I would have gotten the money. But what I wanted really was impact. My solution was very impactful. It might not look cool, but it was very impactful. So always focus on impact. Once the impact is in place, you can make it interesting later on, or they can coexist. Something that you're thinking about impact can also look interesting. So something like Alexa or anything, Google Bot or anything, they're interesting and impactful, but not always the solution needs to be interesting. Always look at the impact that you're generating. I think as a data science team person, you would be someone who would actually make changes to lives. When I say lives, I literally mean lives. You're actually going to make changes to lives of people. So make sure all your solutions are impactful. Very, very important for you to keep that in mind. Again, I don't want to jump immediately to the next use case. Take a couple of seconds. Meanwhile, Pawan, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Nothing as such, Karuna, but I really like the use case which you have spoken about, which is very much relatable to each one of us, especially for a person like me who is in the education sector. I know the kind of impact that it would make. Yes, this is a very relatable thing that you have to understand. So yes, people say through technology it impacts a lot, but how is something which we need to really understand. So if you really want to make a difference for the world with the knowledge which we have, this is how you can actually think of it. You can be a very great Java coder. You could be in a big company, be a tech geek guy and do all that stuff. That's one way of looking at it. But believe me, guys, all the mundane or routine activities are getting automated. Where you don't need a mind, you don't need a brain. It is being automated. It is being provided on repetitive basis. This is where you need to be really be keen, where you have to have that eye. So that's what I would say, and really thankful for picking up this particular use case. Actually, it is
I'm
simple
glad
at
to
the
hear.
same time impactful.
Thank you very much. Uh, I think moving to the next use case from healthcare. Uh, Again, this is a very, very important use case and very close to my heart because this is something that helped me understand the problem that a clinician or an ophthalmologist goes through while deciding certain or taking certain key decisions. Um, as you might know or might have heard somewhere, one of the major causes of blindness in India is cornea failure. It's huge shortage, and this is a huge shortage. So the people, if the people are waiting, the waiting for a cornea transplant are say 100, you hardly have 10 people who are donating. We have those corneas, about 10 corneas, which can be donated. So there's a huge gap between the people who are waiting versus people or the corneas that are right now available. So one thing that we have to do is create that right match, just to ensure that the right people out of these 100 are going to get that cornea, so that they can see the world. You're actually making people see the world. Imagine that. Seriously, I mean, you are a part of that solution itself gave me those goosebump moments. I was able to support the clinician to give eyesight to people out there. So that's like the happiest moment I had in my life. So what we have done for this, the solution was more about can we build? The question that we had was, can you build a product which is going to tell me the likelihood of failure of this person's eye if we transplant it? So the way it happens is the patient comes, the data is collected, not a separate product, but an internal product, including their current data, which is a part and parcel of their current product. Uh, what we had to do was the data that is already being captured, we had to pull that data in such a way that we can run our algorithms and predict the survival of the eye. And say, for example, I am the patient who needs a cornea transplant. I'm sitting in front of the doctor, and the doctor would actually look at my survival chances and say, "Oh, even if I transplant for you, your eye is going. There is high chance, 95% chance that you're going to become blind again in say 5 years." No, then they're going to tell me that, look, you're going to lose your eyesight again. There is high chance that you're going to lose your eyesight in again 5 years. And they're going to take those strategic decisions. Say, for example, there's another patient out there whose likelihood of losing their eyesight again is not much. They're going to have their eyesight for say 10 years from now. What is the best decision as a doctor they can take? Is probably transplant that cornea to the person out there whose likelihood of seeing the world is say 10 years. And also the age factor. I am say 80-year-old and there is a 16-year-old person. I would rather want to take that decision to transplant into the 16-year-old if my chances, if age is a factor of losing that eyesight. So these were certain things. I think one example I want to quote from here. So when we were looking at the data, uh, I went back to the clinician and I told them that we see from your data that one single person had transplantation 10 times. So that's an example that I'm giving. 10 times the patient had a transplant. That's the data they have. It's not like I am creating a data. I'm using their data. I'm looking at the data, which they couldn't because of their busy schedule. I told them, okay, the person had 10 transplants. The first reaction that the doctor had was, what? We actually gave the person 10 times the same eye. We actually transplanted for 10 times. Had we known that data earlier, I would have used those corneas for somebody else. 10 different people would have got me the eye. 10 different people would have seen the world today. We didn't see that data. So that's the power of data I'm talking about. You are actually, the moment you actually talk about clinical aspects with a clinician, especially in these cases where they're like 30 years old, 30 years experienced people out there. And if I want to talk to them, if I really want them to respect me, I need to talk in their terms. I need to talk about graft. I need to talk about best corrected visual acuity. I need to talk about whatnot. They have all these clinical terms out there. I need to talk about them. For that, I have to read a lot. I have to understand their domain. I cannot get into one of the best clinicians in the world and say, okay, the data says something called BCVA. What is BCVA? If I don't know, they won't respect me. I want them to respect me. That's possible only if I understand their domain. If I can converse with them in their own language. And the moment I started conversing with them in their language, they started respecting me. That's the key takeaway I want you to have from here. I want you to understand that you have to be an expert to converse with an expert. You cannot be someone who says, okay, I saw the data, I don't know the columns. If I say, can you talk about the data? You cannot say it is 34 columns and say 2 lakh records. No, you have to talk about what are those. Okay, I see that there is demographic data, there is clinical data, there's surgical aspects. We see that you're collecting the data at so and so time. You have to talk in their terms. You have to talk about data. You need to know the data. So become an expert to converse with an expert. That's one key takeaway I want you to have here. Take few seconds again. Sink these facts in.
Guys, again, Karuna, there is one point which I suddenly struck me is like data science is one thing which can really help us solve the real-time problems for a country like India, which now with huge population, there's so much of data available. Data science still now is more of a kind of a elite science where like it is the elites or the really tech people who are working and all those things. But it coming into the real-time perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, like they are trying to solve the real-time problems. Guys, please understand, if you can really work out, look around and see what is being happening. Pick any real-time problem, bring data perspective into that, try to give a solution with respect to that. Because the two use cases which you are talking about, they are very much Indian, very much relevant to us, very much impactful things. You can formulate your own set of visualizations. You can go directly to the people. And for most of the things, you don't need to really work on, depend on someone else. Start with understanding what the world is happening, how the problems are there. Look around, formulate your own set of teams. Somebody who is a tech geek, somebody who is look at mathematically good, somebody is formulate your own set of small team. Build a project around. Go to any startup, go to any expert and tell them this is what we have done. I'm sure if not anything, they'll respect your work. And if they're really into the data science, they'll consider you for your internship. And if you're able to really solve a big problem, really bring out a new perspective, it's a completely different ball game altogether. You can actually start off your own firm, I believe. I believe like one of the startup which you have worked earlier was of similar kind, if I'm not wrong, Karuna. The thing which you have worked for the LV Prasad. I believe it's a kind of a small setup which has worked on all these real-time problems, and now they are actually big time into this data science.
Yes. So the company I work for is called Algolead Technologies. And we were actually working on, I think LV Prasad was one of our major clients. And we were trying to solve those real-time problems in the world. And even before this prediction problem came in, we were actually there, as I said earlier, that I had to record time as well. I had to record the data. The data was not there with them. There were certain problems where I had to record the data, analyze the data, and then come up with solutions that they could implement. So, yeah.
Great. Go ahead.
The last one is real estate case. So again, if you actually see the titles here, one focused on analysis. I had to analyze and come up with solutions. The second one is prediction. I had to predict way before the actual thing happens, just to ensure they're more informed and the decisions are taken in such a way that they're more strategic in solutioning. The last one is more of support. The reason why I have put these titles is also because I want you to understand that it's not always one kind of prediction is not the only thing that you'll be doing with data. There are a whole lot of things that you would be doing. Say support, for example, in real estate, what happens is a lot of people, they have these deal discussions or other things that happen out there. uh, if I'm going for a deal discussion, not just real estate, take any other industry, if I'm going to a client and if I'm unprepared, it is actually going to be really bad. If I don't know the person, if I don't know what I'm going for, if I don't know their problems, I cannot really say that we are going to give you the solution. I have to be extremely meticulous in my preparation. I need to know everything about what the company is about, what the people are talking about, who are those people whom I'm going to talk to. So this is really important for them. And if I'm having these conversations, business conversations, day in day out, I won't have so much time to actually Google everything, get all the necessary information in one place, and then read that and prepare for my interview. So today is there's one business meeting I have. Tomorrow I might have another business meeting. Day after tomorrow I might have another business meeting altogether. I cannot take so much time to actually sit and prepare those decks. So what we were doing here is, can we actually automate everything? Can we actually give you that deck, whatever you're going to use, necessary information that you need in easily consumption way, so that you can actually you use whatever tool or whatever algorithm that you want to use, and then you can actually use that to automate your process.
Hello? Hello, Karuna? Hello? Yes, I think there is some power outage at our speaker's place. Let me check. Give me a moment. Yes, as anticipated, there's a power outage at speaker's place. Give us a moment. She'll be joining back in a minute. Meanwhile, you please post questions which you have. I am picking up the questions. I'll try to post as many as possible to the speaker so that she can answer those questions. Okay, there are a few questions which I could see people have asked, and then uh, she has already answered about R programming versus Python. So guys, there is nothing like R programming and Python. You start up with one program. You are at a beginner's level. It all depends on at what stage you are. So and pick up the program and start doing that. SQLite and MySQL again both have their own pros and cons. One is for the mobile part, and MySQL is more of a web related things. You have to understand which particular application perspective you actually are trying to do. Okay, a speaker is back. Let me uh, yeah. Hello, Karna.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Hello?
Yeah, we are able to hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, Karuna.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Voice is breaking a bit, but still it is fine.
Very much. I think, sorry, there was a power cut. Okay, is this better?
Yeah, now it is better. The screen you are sharing is not coming up. Maybe it will. I think just check the screen part. Guys, give me a moment. I'll unmute the speaker. Yeah, you're back on Karuna. Karuna, you're there. Hello, Karna, you're there? Karna, are you able to hear us? Hello, Karna?
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes, am I audible?
yeah, you're audible.
Okay, finally.
Okay.
Uh, Great. Thank you. Sorry, there was a power cut, and this is a good use case also, probably where I can explore as to when I'm going to lose power in my house, so that next time when we have such sessions, we can be far more prepared. Sorry
Oh,
about that. But yeah, so I think where was I? With respect to, I won't call this again real estate. This is more about can I scrape and automate the information that any consumer wants? Can I automate and give them the information in such a way that they can actually use it in easier way, and they can consume it and quickly say if their current level is this, with my data they're going to go to this level, it's worth it. I can do that automation. I can give you the necessary data. Probably the human intelligence may be here. I might not reach that level, but I can definitely cover some part of the distance that is there right now. So that way, we're trying to give automated solutions to people who are getting into those business conversations out there. In this, how did the domain knowledge help me? As I said, I'm completely new. Neither I invested in any plots for my own investments, nor I ever worked in any investment agency, nor I ever read about real estate investments. So this was completely new domain to me. To even solve that problem, I had to understand what their problem is. So what I have done is basically, okay, can I do what you're doing right now? I went to the person and I said, okay, whatever you're doing right now manually, can I do it? Unless I do it, I don't know the problem they're having. And if I don't know the problem, I cannot solve it. Remember, you cannot solve any problem if you don't know what the problem is. Know the problem. You can do it, you can read about it, you can do anything, but know the problem that you are going to solve. So the third main learning here I had was experience the problem, be a part of the problem to design a solution, put yourself in their shoes. When I say solve for COVID, I'm not saying go and get corona out there. Don't get the coronavirus, but understand the impact of understand the impact it is having on our economy, understand the impact it is going to have on our entire uh, and people, poor people out there. Understand everything, and only then you can actually create real time solutions. So experience the problem, be a part of the problem to solve the problem. uh, so these were the top three use cases I really want to talk about. Broadly summarizing everything before we actually move to our question answers, we are on time right now. Summarizing everything I've been talking about: impact over interest. Always think about impact. It might not be interesting, that's okay. It can be interesting, need not be interesting. I'm not saying don't make it interesting. You can make it interesting, but always your priority is what is the impact this solution is going to give me. The next one is understand the domain, know the domain, whatever. So I have worked in three different domains. Education, when I was in ed sector, I knew what the problem was in ed sector. When I was in, say, healthcare, I knew what the problem was in healthcare. Right now, when I'm in real estate, I know what the problems are for a real estate person. So understand the domain. Unless I understand the domain, I'm not going to solve the problem they're having. Third one is put yourself in their shoes. Understand, if you can really go ahead and solve it as a patient. Say, for example, one example I want to quote is when I was trying to understand where the time is being spent, I became a patient. I registered myself as a patient. I went through the process of entire OPD to understand, okay, here I'm waiting for so much time, here I'm waiting for so much time, here I'm waiting for so much time. Unless I become a patient, I don't know the pain of a patient. Become a patient there. You need not have your eye problem, but try going through that path. And the fourth point I really want to stress here is, don't do something because others want you to do it, or the market is talking about data science. Please do not become a data scientist because the market is talking about data scientists. No. If you assess I have listed down the different roles, the skills that are needed, and whether you're the right fit or not. Assess yourself in each of these roles. Understand where you are getting that happiness, where you're able to maybe you put 2 hours to learn something, but while doing it you're actually spending 4 hours because you're passionate, you're happy, you're not looking at time. If you're doing something like that, that is your calling, that is your aha moment you're going to get from. So please do something if you're really passionate about. Take time to assess yourself in all the different roles possible out there in the market. These were the top learnings I had based on my own experience. And now, actually, concrete, some key takeaways I want you to have is, if you really want to be a data scientist, uh, I think these are some things that you have to do. You don't have a choice. You have to do these, say, 5 things. First one, as I said, math. Pick up your, say, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade math books. Start learning linear algebra, calculus, and statistics. These three are mandatory. Go for Udemy or any other online program. If you really want to go for those. Pick up those books, start reading about these 3 things. You have to know in and out. If I am the interviewer, or if someone like me is interviewing you, I am going to hire you if you know these 3 things, and if you have not implemented even one algorithm out there, that's perfectly fine, as long as you know these things, you know why you're doing something. The next one is, keep yourself updated on the market advancements. Say, for example, if there's a new algorithm out there in the market, read about it. First, step number 1 is read about it. Read what is that it is giving you. Read why this is better than the ones that are already there. Start implementing this on your own. Understand the logic that they have. Start implementing it. While implementing it, you're doing 2 things actually. One is you're actually implementing your math skill. Two is you're understanding in fact, actually 3 things. Two is you're actually understanding the problems of this algorithm itself. You can talk, you can be a critic in this field for this algorithm. You can be a great critic. Third one is you're actually going to learn those coding skills that I'm talking about. You can implement in anything. I think one of the question was, should we learn R or Python? It really doesn't matter, as long as I'm looking at the data, I'm able to solve the problem. It really doesn't matter. I don't care, or anyone, in fact, any hiring person will not care whether you know Python or R. I'm not going to reject you because you know R and you don't know Python, because I know someone who knows the logic, someone who can implement things, will hardly take 5 days max to learn a new programming language. It really doesn't matter. So anything that you're happy about start coding these new algorithms. Please read. I think bookmark these Medium posts and analytics vidya. There are many sources out there. I'm not saying the others are not good, but these are something that really help me to stay updated in the market. Medium posts, they actually write things, and in fact, I would say once you start working on things, you start creating your own Medium posts. And one thing I did not post here is GitHub repository. Start creating a GitHub repository. Put all your codes out there. Even if someone is talking about something, okay, did you code something? You can open up your GitHub link or share your GitHub link and say, okay, this is, you can actually look at all the codes that I've run, all the data sets I've worked on. So that's the other thing. And as I said earlier, please participate in Kaggle competitions. That is going to definitely define you over anybody else out there. The last but not the least is, again, read about various industries, think and design solutions on your own. Start reading about their SEC filings or industry reports, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG. All of these gives a lot of industry reports. Start reading those industry reports and understand the problem they're talking about, and try and think about a solution. You don't need to do anything, just think about a solution. uh, Maybe you can actually build a data science solutions and put it out in the Medium post. Whatever post you're going to have, put out a solution saying, okay, I have read so and so article, I think their strategic problem is this, and maybe a solution like this will really help them. maybe I don't see yourself as someone who's a fresher who might not really know the market. Don't think yourself like that. You know, maybe you thought about the problem in such a way that nobody else in the world could have thought, and maybe your solution is completely unique. Maybe your solution is what is going to solve the problem out there in the market. So start putting things out there. Write a lot, code a lot, be hands on, be as much hands on as possible. That's the thing I want to conclude this with. Thanks, everyone. I hope I'm on time.
Yes, Karuna. Perfect timing actually. In fact, there are quite a few questions which I thought I may have to ask, but in your consolidation slide and the point in the last 5 minutes you spoke about, you answered quite a few questions which students had. You gave a clear-cut learning path. Guys, I hope you all have noted down. If you have asked about sources, she mentioned about that. If you have asked about the learning path, she mentioned from where you have to start, right from your 6th, 7th, 8th max, linear algorithms, linear mathematics, and move towards that. That is another thing. Okay, understand. I hope you got the path, you got the roles, how you have to start. You need not really think you are not an experienced guy. It would really help if you can really work out on some project, some concept. You can pick up any of the existing use cases, redo them. In the process, you will learn, you will gain the expertise. When you go for an actual interview, you'll be able to speak, and your point should have weight because you're talking about experience out of your implementation. So the Kaggle is one of the forum you told, right? Karuna? Karuna, you're there? Okay, he'll join. Karuna? Guys, the problem is with me or Karuna? Am I audible, guys? Yeah. Yeah, I think Karuna has an issue. She'll join again. Guys, understand the kind of platforms which she spoke about. So let her join so that I will ask few more questions. So, but the important point which I could really see is you can pick up real-time use cases, guys. You can pick up. Yeah, she's back. Kanu, you're there?
Yes, sorry again, power cut.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem, no problem. So one of the question which students had is this data science ka thing, AI, ML, how far they are connected, are they one and the same, how they are different, how we have to look at all the things, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, big data, key buzzwords which these people gets bombarded. So how to really look at them in the perspective of data science and how they really need to understand them.
Great. I think I would again give based on my understanding and my experience. I'm more of a generalist when it comes to data science as such. The response that I'm going to give now, take it with a pinch of salt. My understanding or the way I see machine learning and data science, I would say data science is the umbrella. There are subparts of it. The way I use data or the way I'm going to build those data science solutions. Uh, sorry. The way I'm going to build data science solutions, I can start mimicking the human brain. And the moment I'm actually talking about mimicking the human brain, that's where I'm talking about artificial intelligence. End of the day, it's still data science. How am I going to use data science is where the difference comes into play. Machine learning is nothing but I'm going to train the machines to do certain things. So say predictions, for example. Predictions is nothing but the machines are learning to predict something that is going to happen in a new way. It is going to so again, artificial intelligence and machine learning difference would be machine learning will do the things based on whatever I'm giving. It is going to get trained in the same thing, and when the same kind of data comes in, they're going to replicate it. They're going to predict the likelihood. That is what artificial intelligence does is used on the data, using the data that I'm going to give them, they're going to learn new things. If an altogether different scenario comes into play, they can actually understand, they can learn based on whatever they're putting, they can replicate it into a different scenario. Say, for example, the best example that I would say is Alexa, or say, for example, an automatic car. An automatic car is designed somewhere else, but if I'm taking it onto a new road, it is able to learn that. That is not machine learning. It is actually artificial intelligence that is coming into play. But end of the day, everything is data. What is being fed in there is nothing but data. So all these are subparts of the data science umbrella.
Great. Something related to your, as I told them about your ISB experience, the course, what it is, and how these people can opt. And actually, I know it's not the typical course, but it's a kind of a specialty course. Is there a path for someone to replicate?
Right. As I said earlier, the very reason why I went to the program at ISB is because I knew that I wanted to learn things on data. I wanted to learn those skills. So what ISB definitely gave me is that kickstart, when I say to understand the new industries. So the program, the advanced management program that I have done is more of a business analytics. It is not going to take you deep into the data science or coding part of it, but it is going to actually give us a business understanding of solving the problems. So we had courses like financial analytics, pricing analytics, say some other analytics, etc., etc. So what they were doing was case-driven approach. So there were case studies. So I was looking at the different case studies out there and trying to use, again, I was trying to use Python or some other language to solve that business case problem that they were giving me. I would say ISB program is really helpful for you if you are somewhere in your mid career, because one, I would say, I'm sure you would look for placements. ISB doesn't necessarily provide placements for this program. The second one would be you would really get value out of it if you experience an industry for some time. As a fresher, I would say I wouldn't encourage you. They will take you in probably, but you might not get the best use of the resources ISB is providing. They have the best in India professors out there. There's huge learning curve that you're going to go through. But to get into data science, that's not the only thing. As I said earlier, I had no experience in data engineering, but I think your passion, your learning curve, people, I think the days are gone when people are looking at your resume to hire you. People are looking at your skills to hire you, irrespective. Even say for CBRE, one of our center heads told me that it really doesn't matter what undergrad program you have done, as long as you're going to convince me that you want to do this. As long as you convince people, the market is in such a way that people are not looking at your resume or your marks or your percentages in your undergrad. They're definitely a way to filter out certain things, but they're not the only things. I want you to start reasoning things, start looking at online program probably, which are not very costly and which are going to give you the necessary skills as a fresher to kickstart your career.
Okay. So would you suggest online courses for a fresher, maybe a Udemy or a Coursera to be the platform, or like is there anything like any online free courses which are available which you can suggest?
Uh, as I said, I think you have to create your own learning plan. Again, as I said, you have to create, you have to open up your NCRT books or any other books for linear algebra, calculus. You have to read. I think what these online programs are definitely going to help you, but that's not the only thing you have to learn. One thing I have observed in online program is they're very narrow when it comes to, again, no complaints on that. Their time is also restricted. They have certain constraints to address larger audience, but you as a person, you have your own learning experience, learning curve that you're going to design. So design your curve, write down all the things that you have to learn. First, make a table, write down all the things, say math, calculus, statistics, and linear algebra. What are all the topics? List down the topics, and once you actually list down the topics, go to Google and search for the best resources online. It can be Udemy, it can be MIT, or it can be anything else. But you have to create that plan yourself. I wouldn't recommend any particular thing for overall learning.
Okay. Guys, before we move ahead, we have reached 8 o'clock, so we are supposed to be stopping here. So with Corona, if it is okay, just we'll extend for 5 more minutes because we lost in the power cut and all that. So if the users as well are fine, we'll go ahead with for one or two questions. Okay. So I hope you won't mind. So one thing, guys, before I move to other things, please fill the feedback form which I've posted. For the people who have provided the feedback, it will help us understand what it is. So and also the presentation which our speaker has mentioned, we can share it for the people who have actually have shared the feedback, and you also can get some insight of what it's been done. Okay, do share us your feedback. Point one, follow us and follow us on our social media platform so that it will be helpful for you people to be easily tracking what programs we are going to do. Okay, the feedback form is been just put in by our Gold State team guy, so just pick that up. Okay, moving to the next question, Karuna. Like, what I'm seeing as such for a fresher, so career is one thing, and then learning resources is another thing. So, what is like, is it something like I can start getting an opportunity? Because like I don't see data science related companies coming up on my campus. They don't come. So even if they come, they don't come because I'm not an expert as a fresher. So is it like, do I need to wait for my company to get into the data science so that I can get there after my entering into the job? Or is it like, how is that? Like you told initially, I agree that I approach startup which are working on that in the process again. Like for a fresher, but you are experienced, I would say still. For a fresher, how do you look at the path in that perspective?
Okay.
Purely at
Uh,
a internship or a job perspective.
Great. I think I would suggest two things. As I said earlier, tap into your network. Talk to people who are currently working in data science field. That's one approach that you can take. The second approach would be, I would say, actually get into those campus placement companies. While interviewing itself, every company, whether they're hiring you for a data science role or not, every company has data science requirements. So one conversation probably you can have initially itself is, tell them that, okay, my long term goal is to get into data science. What would you suggest? Have those conversations with the people there, with the interviewer itself, and ask them, see if there is a data science requirement in their companies. That's the other way. um, the third way, I don't know, probably is look for opportunities out there and look for internships. Try and see if you can do any. And there are other online competitions as well, who are actually going to give you those Kaggle like competitions to hire, for hiring. Their entire goal would be to hire you. So there are certain online programs where they give you the data, they give you the competition, you participate in the competition, and if you get through that, you're into the interview mode. So that's the third channel that I can think of right now.
Okay. So like maybe like a kind of closing thing. I know you interview quite a few freshers who come down and apply for your company, and you've been there in recruiting them. So 3 or 4 pointers or 5 pointers, whatever you put, which you check in them for you to, because you are going to take them into your data science related roles. So what are the key things which you look at in them, in their resume or in their discussion, in the
Uh,
interview part?
I think, yeah. So as I said earlier as well, definite things that I'll definitely look for people is, one, understanding the data that you have worked on. Even if you write one project or one data set that you have worked on, I want you to, my first question would be to you would be, explain the data. Can you explain me the data? When I say explain the data, it's not about there were 24 fields and across 200 records, etc. No, I want you to talk about the data, really talk about the data. What were the different things? What were the key insights that you had while working with the data? So those were definite things I'm going to look at. And if you really can answer that question, you're through to the next round for sure. The next thing I'd really want to understand is, do you even understand everything that you have put in your resume, whatever it is. Don't put it because there's a structure to it, or don't put it because that's what the template tells you. Do it because you know what you have done it. I think authenticity of whatever you have put in your resume is something that I'll definitely look for. The third thing would be definitely, I think, inclination. Inclination is something you might not have done. Even my own case, for example, the way I was hired, I want to quote this example. The way I was quoted for this, I was given this role was I never worked on text analytics earlier. I never worked on Python. These were the two mandatory things they wanted for this role, for which I'm working currently. And the first thing I told them is, look, I neither know text analytics nor I have worked on Python. I worked on R, and I'm confident. I have worked on data, and I'm confident that I can learn text analytics. That's the only thing I told them, and I was through to the next round. I think it's very important for you to have conviction in whatever you're doing. Make sure whatever you put in is authentic. You know that your path is clear. You have that passion. The passion automatically comes in during the interviews if you really have it.
Great. Thanks a lot, Karuna. Thanks a lot for the wonderful session, guys. If you look at the speaker, she's echoing the words of the speakers who have come for the earlier sessions. Be authentic in your presentation. Should be able to prove what you are saying in your resume. Be genuine in your presentation. Ensure that you have that one standout thing which can make you the guy to be recruited for the role which you are applying. So understand the roles which you actually are applying. Understand the kind of companies you are targeting. Work on a program, course, project which can help you get that. Yes, that this standout guy whom I can think. Yes, and when you have put in something, you should be able to define that. Understand these key takeaways. Okay. Thanks a lot, Karuna.
Thank you
So
very
thanks a lot
much.
for the wonderful session. I hope our users or listeners have liked it. They have learned a lot from that, I'm sure, because I learned a lot from the session. The way you've put in a very articulate in a very simple layman's language. For a guy like me who is layman in data science, I could really have a lot of takeaways. Thanks a
Thank you
lot.
very much. I think a great opportunity. Thank you everyone for taking time. And honestly, it's already night. You could have actually logged into Netflix or anything, but you have actually taken time to be here. That itself actually shows me that you're passionate towards this. Thank you very much. And thank you, Coin and Pawan, for this great interactive session. I think I thoroughly enjoyed except the power cuts that I had. It was a great session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Karuna. So the speaker would log out now. I'll still retain the forum for 5 more minutes for you people to note down the point which has come up. Okay. Thanks, Karuna. You can sign off. I'll just have a few interactive points and then I'll move on.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Bye. Guys, as always, I hope you all had wonderful time. We had a wonderful session. Great speakers. We'll continue to have this set of sessions further as well. Okay, do please fill in the feedback form. I could see we had around 50 people have filled in, but there are close to 240 people have attended the program. So that's a huge gap. If you can all fill in the feedback form, it'll really be helpful for us. Okay, feedback form is one thing which we want you to work on. Second thing, please do subscribe to our channel so that it will be easy for us to communicate with you people. We'll be posting all the videos of the sessions in our social media platforms, or the new session announcements and all those things as well. So we have shared the link in the sometime back. Someone post social media platform links. I hope you all have registered for the program. Subscribe to that so it will be easier for you to get communicated. Okay, anything else you have, please share. I'll have the window open for next 5 minutes and we'll close it. You have any questions, please post so that I can answer. Can I get that it is live in the YouTube, right? It's been live, presented live in the YouTube, guys. I'm just pausing the live, just now stopping it because